there is no conflict of interest problem with Donald Trump, his companies, and his future as president of the United States. How do we know that? He told us. In a tweet, here's how he's framing the potential conflict of interest problem going forward. He says, in a tweet, of course, prior to the election, it was well known that I have interests in properties all over the world. Only the crooked media takes this as a big deal. So basically what he's saying is there's no real conflict of interest because you knew it was me. I'm Donald Trump. I'm the business guy. I had those business interests overseas, which is a fundamental misunderstanding of the conflict of interest problem. He says this, if I become president, I couldn't care less about my company. It's peanuts. I wouldn't ever be involved because I wouldn't care about anything but our country. Anything. Which I don't even know how to parse that sentence. And why is anything? There's usually a believe me or a trust me or a lot of people, but the anything is confusing to me. Here are some potential conflicts of interest that Trump has. First off, he says he's handing his business off to his children, so that's not going to be a problem. They're going to handle the business. But then when he goes and sits down with heads of state like Shinzo Abe and the Argentinian president Mauricio Macri, she's there. She's having discussions. Also, reportedly, he's trying to build a large business high-rise in Buenos Aires, and he asked for help with that, according to a report, in his conversation with the Argentinian president. Also, he has Indian business partners. Donald Trump, the Trump International Hotel, according to the lease, it says the lease cannot be held by a government official. I am being told that president is a government official. In Scotland, here's something that happened in Scotland. He has his big country club, and he built it on the water, and it's going to be the most beautiful country club in the universe. And then the Scottish government built a windmill farm, and he's like, I don't like the view, so he tried to fight to get that windmill farm taken down. He lost the fight. But Nigel Farage, who is the guy from the UK Independence Party, that Trump sent out a tweet saying, I think this guy would make a pretty good UK ambassador to America. Apparently, according to a report, he went on the phone with Nigel to have that conversation and asked to get access, get the wind farm taken down. He has debts in the millions, hundreds of millions of dollars to the Bank of China. The industrial and commercial banks of China are his tenants in one of his buildings. He owes hundreds of millions of dollars to Deutsche Bank. There are many, many conflicts of interest in play here. But here's something interesting. According to the law, the president is exempted from any conflict of interest. It had just been a thing that presidents and people who considered themselves presidential people did because they were decent. And in the same way as the loopholes, I took advantage of the loopholes, so that's why I make my ties in China. There's loopholes, I'm taking advantage of them. He's saying that they're just those exist, so why wouldn't I do it, essentially? And then he's saying something completely also kind of crazy, saying, if you think there's a problem, it's just because the stupid media is telling you that there's a problem. They have a problem, no one else cares.
And this will probably work for the people who voted for him for a while, if not forever, because this is what happens after you repeal the fairness doctrine, which the Barack Obama officially did, his administration. This is what happens after 15 years of the foxification of the Republican Party. And this is what happens, when Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton go on Fox News. And so they legitimize them. And then when Fox News says you can't trust the mainstream news, you can't trust any news on us, they believe them. And then Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, they validate them. And so that's what this is. So now when Donnie Tynahan says, don't pay attention to the news media, they're not gonna, because the legitimate news organization called Fox News, which was legitimized by the knuckleheads at the top of the Democratic Party, who didn't go on Democracy Now!, they didn't go on with Cenk Uygur. Who did they go on with? Bill fucking O'Reilly, because of those people. So now Donald Tynahan is going to get away with this. Now he can say, because the mainstream media has been delegitimized. Hey, by the way, it's not like they don't deserve it. It's not like they didn't print lies on the front page of their New York Times above the fold, which was stenography coming right from a warmonger's office, which led us into a war. That was the New York Times, which the New York Times lets their own journalists be prosecuted for exposing war crimes instead of fighting against it. What do you think?
If Hillary Clinton got in office, we would probably not see the big entities that were profiting off of it the way we saw the Bush administration, which we could have if we dig a little bit. It's not like it's impossible. But the difference with this, it'll be direct. You can look into any of his interests.
Yes,
that's absolutely
We're talking about
right.
Right here. His interests are going to be on full display, and he's going to say, well, F you, you guys knew I was a piece of shit when I was running.
But this is the simplification that some people might need in order to really wrap their minds around what corruption looks like. Because the hidden corruption of
quid pro quo of the Clinton Foundation.
Everyone could wrap their head around, she had a foundation, there was pay for play. If that pissed you off before, this should piss you off now. Because this is easier to understand. This is, if suddenly there's permits being issued to build something with the name Trump on it, that's an easy way to figure out that corruption works. And for everyone out there, if I am a world leader, and I want something from President Trump. The reason that folks want Trump to put his stuff in a blind trust, which involves liquidating, usually sell the Trump name and everything around it and put it into a bunch of different investments. But if the Trump towers suddenly get greenlit and all these places they would otherwise never have been greenlit before, that's actually a red flag. That's where the shit went down. That's where he went, because the people who are negotiating the deals know, like, I don't have to do anything that benefits the American people. I just have to benefit the name Trump, and that's it. And it's so sad.
I agree with you, Brett, and everything you're saying. But I think, in a sense, you guys are proving my point that now Donnie Tynahands. You said if you were upset about the Clinton Foundation, you should be upset because this is even easier.
Yeah, that's where I was trying to go.
This is even easier. Donnie's corruption he's going to be so much less adept at covering it up that it's going to be, now we're going to get upset about the shit. We're going to get upset about the corporate influence in our government. We're going to get upset about people privately gaining, not only gaining influence, but gaining huge amounts of money and becoming rich off their government service, the revolving door, all that stuff. I think now there's going to be a scrutiny to the Donnie Tynahands administration. I really think that we didn't have before. We didn't have it. Go ahead.
Who's the we? Because you said we're going to finally. Because again, we saw all of his shortcomings, and that's the kindest word I can give, during the campaign, and he was forgiven of all of those. Who's the we that's finally going to say, what are you doing? Because during the campaign, even the primaries, we said, what are we doing? And he continued to do it.
I've talked to a lot of Trump supporters who are real normal people. And I didn't think they existed, but I found them. I found them in my Uber drive with a guy who was just like, a normal sounding person. And they think like this corruption, all that, he's got his own company. Who gives a shit? He's going to go build a road, and I need a job building a road. That's where they're at. So the things that are difficult for folks who have like a general familiarity with how traditionally to hold someone accountable ethically or legally, you usually do that because you think everyone's behind you and we should all be lawful. Yes. The problem is now everyone's like, yeah, he's a piece of shit. Like, that's the thing that shocked me the most about all the Trump supporters I've talked to. They were like, yeah, he's a piece of shit. I don't like the guy. I think he's a piece of shit, but, I didn't like her.
So here's the you're right.
She didn't, the last thing is like, and it came down to her messaging, which was like, the only message she delivered in her slogan was that she was a her.
Yes.
And that's not a message. That's not what Bill was able to do, which was, that extra little bit of, I feel your pain, to be a good politician, to listen. And all the shit she got for being such a sophisticated arch politician, she was missing half of it, which was being a fucking candidate.
So, to your question, who's the we? The we would be the half of the Democratic Party that goes to sleep when Barack Obama is president. So, I've outlined that. So, when you talk about all the horrible stuff that's happened in our government that Barack Obama has presided over, I think that if it wasn't Barack Obama, people would have screamed a little louder about the stuff that he was doing, like not prosecuting. So that goes right into the other point. So when you talk to your Uber driver and he's okay with Donnie Tiny Hands being corrupt because he owns a company, here's exactly what happens. You go, well, the whole goddamn government's corrupt. I saw what happened with Wall Street. I saw how corrupt they were. I saw how the same people who drove us into the ditch, Barack Obama brought them into his administration, prosecuted nobody. I saw an illegal war happen at the tippy top of government, them order war crimes. They're all fucking corrupt. So Donald Trump's corrupt too. Fuck you. You want to take him away because he's corrupt like everybody else is when he's going to help me? That's the problem with Barack Obama being corrupt and not prosecuting the people he was supposed to prosecute who were corrupt, meaning the bankers and the war criminals. So now when people go, Donnie Tiny Hands is corrupt, they go, well, fuck you. Everybody else is corrupt. Why can't my guy be corrupt too? Now you're going to have a double standard, which it is a double standard with Barack Obama. So, now it is a double standard with Donnie Tiny Hands, but now half the left is going to be awoken to it. And now we're going to be upset with the stuff that we should have been upset with for the whole 8 years under Barack Obama.
At the Young Turks, we believe in change. We believe we can change the media, make it more independent. Come do it with us. tytnetwork.com/join.